Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in. This is Renault, and go ahead and hit that like button and also the subscribe button. So we're going to do our, just like I said, a random collection of random oldies that really caught my eye. Now, I was actually interested in this issue because I do have kind of like the New Gods, not as quite as much as some other people, but when it comes to the New Gods, I'm a huge fan of Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. So I do have some familiar with the New Gods and their social structure, but it's always something I wanted to explore in more depth. And as some of you may know, Castellucci had a recent series about the Furious Five, but she made it about how women are weak and helpless and incompetent and contradictory. And so it's like, wow, that really makes me want to read some good, or at least decent, New God stories. And so when I was at the shop, I went ahead and grabbed this sucker. Now, this story of this is Throne of Blood. And as you can see, it involves a character enshrouded in darkness. So you can really right away get a tone for what this series is about. He's got his foot on someone. We don't know who that is. But basically you get a good idea about what's going on here. It's someone just enthralled in darkness. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to skip a couple of pages. And in this story, Lightray has taken over for Highfather. And so Lightray is demanding to be worshipped like a god. Unlike a Highfather, who they consider themselves gods, but not Highfather, but Lightray, he wants to take it to the next level. It's like worship me or die, while cleansing the world of quote unquote ugliness. So the New Gods, they're broken into two factions. New Genesis, who are generally considered the good guys or the light side, and Apokolips, which is generally considered the villains or the dark side. But that's not always true. We've seen a lot of hints of New Genesis having a lot of darkness, or at least things that are considered unethical going on. And so a darkness has taken over and infiltrated the minds of the New Gods. And this happened because Highfather, who was the leader of the New Gods and New Genesis, he was killed and then almost immediately brought back. And so that just unleashed something dark from the source wall. And so that darkness or whatever has taken over a lot of the people of the New Gods, and Lightray has taken over the New Gods and New Genesis. And so, because, like I mentioned earlier, he's taking his demands to be worshipped to the next level. And so he's really ready to eliminate anyone who doesn't obey, anyone he considers not good enough, anyone who's he finds disagreeable. Let's go to the next page. And so, in New Genesis, there are two tiers of society. There's the people who live in the Celestial City. They're generally the ones we usually interact with. But then they float in a city, and then underneath that is generally the planet. Now, I'm not actually familiar with all of the creatures and denizens that live on the land, because mostly it focuses on the people who live in the Celestial City. So these people, the New Gods, often have superpowers, but the Underdwellers, I guess I'm going to call them, they have powers as well. And so they're not going to take having their livelihoods attempting to be destroyed very lightly. So this guy, he has the ability to throw snakes and wrap snakes around people. And this guy has the ability to control rocks and soil. And so he's also flinging it at Lightray. Let's skip a couple pages. And so Lightray, they're just no match for Lightray. And so Lightray ultimately just pushes them off. And so he just speaks to the people in the Celestial City. Sons of Light, are you ready? Then let your engines of heaven cleanse the world. And so they're dropping like a high-powered bomb. What? Lord Lightray, the bombs. They're gone. Somebody made those bombs go kaput. And it's, boom, Highfather. Back from the dead. Back from the source wall where he was killed. Lightray, you go too far. You used Metron to make these things, didn't you? You disappoint me, Lightray. Now, for those who don't know, Metron is considered the smartest person, one of the smartest beings in the universe. And he's certainly the smartest of the new gods, or among the smartest of the new gods. So Metron, who has the infection or whatever, is working with Lightray to build these weapons of mass destruction. Let's skip. Highfather, he always portrays himself as a kindly old man who's very gentle. And so Lightray misunderstands and thinks that kindness is weakness. He mistook it for weakness. But Highfather, seems to have slime powers. I don't quite understand, but he's like, what should I do with you? Should I bury you in slime? Should I hide you in the belly of a lizard? Should I break you into a myriad of stardust and spread you across the sky? And he's beating the hell out of Lightray. Or have you learned your lesson? Now, you can see here, he's kind of getting beat the hell up. But then right here, he's just fine. So that's a little discontinuity. So he's calling the old man out. He's saying, oh, you're trying to call for peace? That's something Darkseid would have you do. So these are terrible times, blah, blah, blah. We have to control our dark impulses. And so when Highfather left to take care of business, Lightray, that's when he used it to take over and try to become the new leader. So let's skip a couple more pages. So after Highfather is done putting a stop to Lightray for the time being, he confronts Metron himself. So he's like, how the heck could you make these bombs of New Genesis? How could you build these weapons? And he's like, what the hell? What the hell is this? What are you doing? And so Metron, being as smart as he is kind of arrogant. Mature macro crystal balancing, Orion. Pollution pulsations. Forget it. It's nothing you would comprehend. He's about to just zap Metron. But he's like, you know what? The new gods have gone insane here in New Genesis. And before I can start healing their minds, I need to go to the place where insanity exists in its purest form. And so when I read that, I figured he was going to go to Apokolips, because people often do get driven mad by what happens at Apokolips. But I got they twisted that around on me. He goes to Arkham Insane Asylum, which means Earth has the craziest of the crazies. And while he's hanging out at Arkham Asylum, he gets confronted by the Riddler, Mr. Edward Nygma. I've got a riddle for you. When is a god not a god? Give up? No guesses? Because, Highfather is kind of ignoring him. The answer is ready? When he hasn't created anything. So he's like, created? What have you created? What have you created? What have you created? And so, this is just a guard at Arkham Asylum. He's kind of a patsy and can't do anything, but he's like, oh, that's the clue for the next issue. When is a god not a god? When he hasn't created anything. So that kind of gets to Highfather. And, of course, it ends with him meditating upon what was just told to him. So, yeah. It's not a bad issue. I got it mostly because I do have some interest in the new gods. That's something I find interesting, and the lore about them. But there's a lot about the New Gods that still hasn't been explored, like, or at least that I haven't encountered yet. Like a New Genesis, I don't know a lot about. I don't know a lot about that Underdweller society. You know, just like with Apokolips, we kind of know about that society because there's been a lot more exploration on that, but there hasn't really been that darkness hidden underneath the goodness of the people on New Genesis. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, and thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye bye.